Welcome to Let's Write This Movie. I am your screenwriter, René Garcia.
And I am Brian Glass.
Today's episode is brought to you by the word inchoate and sponsored by Chipotle.
And in today's episode, I smother René with compliments about his writing. Now, let's write this movie.
That's my line. So, Brian, how
René.
was the week?
The week was good. Did some traveling, so this was a nice diversion while I was traveling. Got to read my pages on Thursday. It's very nice. How about you? How was your week?
It?
That's it, man. It was a pretty ordinary week.
Excellent. Good to hear.
How about you?
My week was also pretty good in terms of this show and the script. I did not get the advantage that I had discussed in the last episode, mainly because I had really bad allergies. I don't really have allergies as much anymore as I used to. Those of you who know me, who watch this show, I used to have really bad allergies. Like, they would just knock me out. Like, I'd be useless. Don't really have those anymore. I don't know what happened to me. But Monday, the day that was supposed to be my advantage day, I had really bad allergies, and I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll just nap for a couple of hours after work. I'll get up and I'll write and stay up till midnight if I have to. I did get up, but I did not write, and I did stay up till midnight. And instead, I was just so exhausted from, sniffing and sneezing and all of that I just vegged out reading the internet and watching, YouTube clips of movies that inspire me.
Of course.
Where's that awesome fight scene? Let me watch that 5 times.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I did end up writing a significant amount of pages, before my Thursday deadline.
absolutely.
So
You
I
got
was
a full
pretty
10
proud.
here, didn't you? Yeah, full 10 pages. And they're all, pretty much new here. So this was good.
Yes, indeed.
I will say that this was probably, without giving too much away as to how I feel about this is probably the easiest read I've had of your pages.
Because, you mean because you like the quality of it?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were alluding to how little description there is and how
No,
much dialogue.
no.
Well, that's
Not
the
at
other
all.
thing. It's so chock full of dialogue that the performance tonight's going to just fly by.
I can't wait to hear you perform.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait to do it.
Can't wait to follow along. Well, since we don't have any previous pages to look at this week, maybe should we just go into the performance?
Well, yeah, so about that, the majority of the previous pages were the fight scene, and that was all description. And as I mentioned in the blog post, my changes, the significant changes, were just trimming that down. And honestly, as we talked about in the last episode, all of that description is probably for naught anyway, since during production they're just gonna be like, all right, get the fight director out here or whatever, the action choreographer, however it works. Tell me what we're gonna do. How's it look? Okay, great. What's the script say? Throw the script away. Who cares? I used that for toilet paper, 3 months ago.
They get the stunt coordinators from like The Matrix and Crouching Tiger out.
Totally.
Your guys are like in a Western on bamboo stalks, in slow motion. Doves are flying. It's like, wait a second.
They've got that 360 camera.
Exactly.
They're like stuck in time, shooting at each other.
Really bullet time, yeah.
Yeah.
So a little inside baseball for anyone who does know Renee, they'll appreciate this little story. So when I get the pages from Renee, it's always interesting. Like, okay, it's 8:00, it's 9:00. Am I going to get him soon? I don't want to bug him, because he's probably polishing right now or going through the grammar check or something at this point. Don't want to bother him. And inevitably, I'll get the email. And this one was particularly good because it said, had the pages, had the attachment, and his note to me was, "Here, period." So now, fortunately, I know that there's an accompanying blog post, which is kind of a note to the world and kind of a note to me. So I just immediately go over to the blog post and read, okay, how does he really feel about here? You know what I mean? You could have always just copied and pasted your blog post in, but no, here works fine too.
I wrote the blog post after I sent you the pages.
Did
so
you?
There's always this delay. So I don't know how long it takes
Couldn't have
you.
been long. It couldn't have been long because, by the time I got to it, I was out doing something. But by the time I got to read it, blog post was already there. Same with last one where I asked if you were happy. And I think you wrote mostly, or I don't remember what you said, but
Right.
always very short, terse messages from.
As I was kind of like flipping through these pages, as I prep for the show, I did notice like, oh God, I left out this word here in this crucial piece of dialogue. Just things like that. So once again, as I mentioned in the last episode, I don't like to proofread once something is done. Like, I really need to step away from something I've finished before I can come back to it and say, okay, let me find the errors before I send it off. In this case, because of the scheduling and the time constraint, all I want to do is send it off to Brian.
Yeah.
Here, Brian, you fix the typos.
God, I am so like you. When I write my stuff, I don't even want to read it. Just send it out.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Totally do. Same
It's
way.
rough. It's rough because I feel like it's such a monumental effort for me to finish something creative.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to say, oh, well, there's one more segment I got to go through.
Right.
Which sometimes gets me in trouble at work when I'm writing like a lengthy, detailed email. It's
Right.
hard for me to like, okay, before I hit send to the senior vice president of my business unit, let me reread every little thing. And my biggest issue is I will sometimes leave out the word that adds the meaning of the sentence. So I might say, we should do this thing, when it really should say we should not do this thing. And I leave out the not, and it changes everything.
A slightly substantive addition.
Yeah.
Well, don't worry. In the case of your script, I will be your living final draft.
Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
It's supposed to, I didn't turn on my air conditioning this time. It's supposed to be like 76 degrees in my apartment, but I'm kind of moist right now.
That's a troubling word, man.
Why? I don't know why people are bothered by that.
I'm not bothered. I'm troubled deeply.
Okay. We had a pretty good storm here in California, Southern California, last night.
Very nice. We were having one right now here in Arizona.
Lovely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I just got my car detailed last week, so it's nice that I have all of these water drops drying on my car right now.
Cool. See, just don't do that.
No, we needed the rain. That's why I got the car wash. That's how it works, Ryan.
I see.
It is the Southern California rain dance.
That you are the sole.
Yeah, totally, absolutely.
All right.
Okay,
Only
Brian.
takes one.
So we have no old pages to go over, so I guess we're not going to have that segment to share this week. This is going to be a 15-minute long show.
Very, very short show. Featuring Renee, reading to Brian.
All right. In that case, let us begin.
All right. Bottom of page 29.
I am there.
All right. Shall we?
Hang on. I got to think of what I'm doing for Doc Murphy's voice here. Creaky old man. I tell you. Okay, I guess it's gonna have to be something high pitched like that and annoying. God, I
you
really
ready?
should have prepped an old man's voice. Oh, well. Okay, everyone, let me get my face back on here. Everyone watching, just FYI, Doc Murphy's voice is subject to change going forward since I didn't prepare anything for it, and I'm not happy with what the performance I'm about to give.
Sweet. Lower those expectations,
Hey,
man.
man. Under promise, under deliver.
I expect an amazing Doc Murphy.
Here we go. Marty!
Not that, Doc.
I know.
All right.
Great Scott! That was terrible. Continue. Brian,
Please.
wait. Let me get to the right thing here. Here we go. Please begin.
Exterior, Doc Murphy's, late afternoon. The small clinic has...
Okay, one option I see is proper
Yes.
Murphisms.
Hello, Siri.
All right. Ready to start?
Let's do it again.
Fantastic. Okay.
Take it easy.
This is the short episode, right?
This is...
Not if I could help it.
You know, I could edit this out because we're just looking at the script. But I think this is further evidence of this being the best produced show on the internet.
Absolutely. Well-deserved reputation. Exterior, Doc Murphy's, late afternoon. The small clinic has a large sign above the door that reads, Doctor's Office. Interior, Doc Murphy's, continuous. Doc Murphy, 60, a slight man with a kind face, finishes stitching Everett's scalp while Everett sits on the chair.
Doc Murphy. I tell you to keep... Oh, God, this is horrible. I'm just going to have to go with it. I tell you to keep a bandage on this, but I know you'll take... but I know... okay. Wow. One more time, Brian. One more time.
From the top?
No. From me.
Oh, okay.
Here we go. Doc Murphy. He's going to sound way too jovial. And giggly. I tell you to keep a bandage on this, but I know you'll just take it off. Just try to keep that hat over it as much as you can. Everett. Thanks, Doc. Can we move him?
Everett motions over Doc's shoulder, and Doc turns to look at Long's unconscious body on a table. He's been bandaged.
Doc Murphy. Well, I wouldn't advise it.
He walks over to the table and lifts a small metal pot. A handful of ball bearings rattle around inside.
Doc Murphy. I've dug out all the pellets and sutured his wounds, but he needs time to heal. Never seen a man survive buckshot.
He sets the metal pot down and wipes his hands on a bloody rag draped over his shoulder. Stan, hunched over a washing basin to clean his wounds around his eyes, lifts his head to check his work in the mirror.
Stan. If it were up to me, he wouldn't survive. You know what? Let me try that again. If it were up to me, he wouldn't survive. Everett. Well, it's not up to you.
Stan and Everett stare pointedly at each other in the mirror.
Doc Murphy. Well, the ether won't keep him under forever. As long as he's laying down, I don't see why he couldn't rest in a cell. Everett. We'll take care of it.
Claudette Murphy, 50, enters from the hallway.
Claudette. Darling. Oh, God, they sound the same in my head. It's the same person. How about we give her a little deeper voice?
God.
Darling. No, is that Everett? I don't know. This is where... Let's get my face in here. Let's get my face in here, Brian. All right. This is where the limitations of an actor really are the limiting factor to a performance.
Yeah, man, why can't you do 12 voices? Come on, man, get it straight.
You know, if I had rehearsed, if I'd had time to rehearse, today was laundry day, sadly. I don't know if you can hear my dryer in the background.
Absolutely can. That's what that is.
You can hear that. Oh,
yes, and I've been trying to figure it out.
Podcast verite, everybody. These are the realities of a shoestring budget.
Bootstrap.
Absolutely.
I think that's what I'm hearing in there. Bootstraps.
Claudette. Let's get back to Claudette here. All right. Darling. No, that's horrible. I'll just give it a regular voice. Darling. Darling. The soldiers are leaving.
Interior, Doc Murphy's, hallway, continuous. Doc follows her into the hallway, where 3 Union soldiers stand in uniform by the entrance. One of them is obviously sick as he shivers in the Arizona heat, hunched and pale.
Doc Murphy.
I'm sorry I couldn't do more for your friend. He's got symptoms I just can't understand.
For a moment, the ill soldier flicks his gaze hungrily on Doc Murphy. His lips curl back into a mirthless grin, revealing unnaturally red and black gums. Taken aback by the evil visage, Doc Murphy swallows hard. A terrible shiver overtakes the ill soldier, and the aggression drains from his body.
Soldier number 1. That's all right, Doc. We're taking him to Fort Bliss. I'm sure the army doctors can do something. Much obliged.
The soldiers all, ma'am, to Claudette, before exiting and climbing onto a horse-drawn cart. The ill soldier lies down on the cart, pulling a blanket over himself. They ride off. Everett and Stan enter carrying Long on a stretcher. As they pass,
Stan. Thanks, Doc. To Claudette. Ma'am. Everett. Ma'am.
they exit. Exterior, Doc Murphy's continuous. Doc Murphy comes out with Stan and Everett. He stops when he sees Petrov, 40, the snake oil salesman, ride in with his horse-drawn carriage. The sign reads, Petrov's Potent Potables. Glassware rattles inside as it passes. Stan and Everett cross the wide street to the town jail. Close by, the bodies of the posse are being carted to the undertaker. When the town folks see Long, they jeer Everett and Stan. The men move quickly into the jail. Interior, jail, continuous. The small building has only the basics, like a desk, table and chairs, a gun rack, and a large cell dominating the back of the room. A small solitary barred window allows some light into the cell. Stan and Everett carry Long into the cell. Stan drops Long unceremoniously. Long doesn't wake.
Everett. That's no way to treat a prisoner. Stan. Whatever you say, Marshal.
After they exit the cell, Stan locks it. Everett drops Long's gun belt and coat onto the desk. Stan eyes the guns.
Stan. What are you going to do with those pistols? Everett. Noticing Stan's gaze. They're coming back with me as evidence.
Stan sighs and begins to leave. Everett sits.
Everett. Where are you going? Stan. I'm getting a drink. Everett. You have a prisoner to watch. Wow, I totally should have fixed this dialogue, FYI. He's not supposed to get a drink, he's supposed to go on patrol. Okay, here we go. Back to scene. Stan. No, you have a prisoner to watch. I have a town to patrol.
Everett watches him, then goes. Everett watches him go, then looks at Long. Exterior, jail, continuous. Stan comes out and walks slowly down the street. He doesn't make eye contact with the townsfolk. A man on a horse-drawn cart rides slowly past. The man is beaten and bloody. Stan squints, recognizing him.
Stan. Carl?
Carl sees Stan and stops the horses. He looks at Stan with tears of rage burning in his eyes. There are corpses in the cart, and the cart is partially burned.
Stan. What happened? Carl. Them goddamn Indians came out of nowhere, killed my kin, burned the wagons. They killed Molly, Sheriff. We gotta have some law out there.
A look of determination falls across his face, and he rides off. Stan looks after him for a moment before chasing. He passes Petrov, who has opened his cart to reveal his wares. He stands on a stool, waving his cloak and tipping his top hat.
Petrov. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, come, come. Feast your eyes on my wares that I bring to you from the remote parts of the world. Grabs green bottle. Here, water gathered from the Ganges River, blessed by a high priest. One sip of this holy water can extend your life for years.
The crowd has grown around him, and an old man stands near the front next to Petrov. Petrov holds the bottle out to the old man, but pulls it back at the last moment. Petrov reaches for a lavender bottle and spots a homely woman.
Petrov. Ah, but there's nothing compared to the power of this love potion.
The homely woman perks up.
Petrov. Drink this before bed, and when you wake up, your heart's desire will find you irresistible.
The homely woman reaches for her coin purse.
Doc Murphy.
Don't give this man a penny. He's selling you snake oil.
Petrov. Lies! I offer only the very best tonics and cordials from around the world. I've seen crippled men walk again after just one sip of my libations. Can you say the same, Doctor? Doc Murphy.
Charlatan!
Petrov. To crowd. I look at all of you, and I see so much suffering. Let me ease your pain. If you have the coin, then I have the cure.
He grabs bottles in both hands and gestures ostentatiously. The crowd rushes him with money in hand. Doc Murphy protests, but Claudette pulls him away. Petrov watches them go with glee. The old man from earlier tugs at him.
Petrov. Ah, you must want the waters of life.
Petrov takes his money and hands over the bottle, but before he lets go...
Petrov. Careful, old man. Drink too much. You might never die.
He winks, and the old man walks off, clutching the bottle. Interior, Doc Murphy's hallway. Moments later.
Doc Murphy.
It's a crime what he's doing.
Claudette.
Yes, but you have a patient.
The two prospectors from earlier stand when Doc Murphy sees them. Prospector number 2 has a bite wound on his forearm. Interior, Doc Murphy's, minutes later. Doc Murphy wraps the sutured wound.
Doc Murphy.
How did you say you got this
Whoa.
How did you say this happened?
Prospector number 1. Oh, God. What was this guy's voice again?
We have to keep... Okay. We were walking back to our steak by Old Man Prophet's mine when we saw a dead dog in the road.
Prospector number 2. Well, we thought he was dead until he got up and bit me. Prospector number 1.
Took all I had to get it off him. I even broke its back with a stick.
Funny. It couldn't move its legs no more, but it kept looking at us, growling. Finally bashed its brains out. That did it. Doc Murphy. Oh, God. Doc Murphy and Prospector number 1, I think they're the same voice. I don't know. Here we go. Doc Murphy. You get it? Oh, Doc Murphy. What a horrible, horrible decision I made. Okay. You get it. He's going to just have a regular voice now. You get a good look at it? Was it foaming at the mouth? Prospector number 2. Not that I could tell.
Doc Murphy finishes with the bandage, and prospector number 2 stands to go.
Doc Murphy. All right, well, you should be fine. And let me know if your jaw tightens up or it gets hard to move over the next few days. Prospector number 2. Why? Doc Murphy. You never know what these animals get into. A bite could still be dangerous long after it happens. Prospector number 1. Can he work? Doc Murphy. Washing up. I wouldn't risk it, but I know you boys are chasing your fortunes. I can't stop you.
The prospectors nod and exit.
Doc Murphy. Claudette, I need you to send a telegram to my cousin in Abilene. Tell him to send my equipment. We may need to do a transfusion.
Claudette nods and exits. Exterior, Doc Murphy's continuous. Claudette walks down the street and passes the undertakers. The undertaker helps Carl and Stan unload bodies from Carl's cart and bring them inside the building. Claudette winces when she sees a little girl's body in the cart. Exterior train station platform. Minutes later, Claudette enters the train station office, and through the window, she can be seen talking. Sorry. Claudette enters the train station office, and through a window, she can be seen talking to the platform manager, who writes down what she tells him. Outside, the train that Long robbed has arrived, and the bodies are being carried off. Sarah cries as she watches while clinging to Jimmy. Father Espinoza, 50, performs last rites on the bodies as they're laid out on the station platform. Interior, jail, sunset. Long wakes, and his eyes shoot open. He tries to sit up quickly, but pain reminds him to move slowly. He checks his wounds and inspects his bandages. Satisfied, he looks up at the cell walls and bars. He sighs.
Long. What now?
After a moment, a match is struck, and the flame dips into the smoking pipe, revealing Everett's face in the darkness. Then he lights a lantern on the desk where he's sitting.
Everett. Now, we wait. Tomorrow, assuming you'll survive the journey, I'll take you back up north to face a judge and jury. He puffs his pipe. And then, I will watch you die.
Long picks himself up gingerly and sits on the cell bench.
Long, is my death all you have to live for?
Everett doesn't answer for a long time.
Everett, I live for the law, and the law says you need to pay for what you've done. Long, the law. Your laws never protected me or my brother, or my countrymen who died building your railroads. Where was the law when we were paid 2/3 of what a white man was paid? Where was the law when we were whipped by overseers and shackled when we tried to leave? Where was the law when we went on strike to protest our treatment and the railroad companies stopped feeding us? Finally, after 8 days of starvation, the law came, but not to save us. The sheriff came with his deputies to threaten us if we did not return to work. Your laws never applied to me.
Everett puffs on his pipe for a few moments.
Everett, whatever injustices you've suffered, that's no excuse for killing that's no excuse for killing men, women, and children. Life isn't fair, and you can't make it fair by taking life. Only the law makes life fair, or as close to it as we can get. And that's why you have to die, to bring some fairness to this life.
The two men stare at each other in silence.
Okay, great. Wow, that was a bear to get through.
Made it, though.
We made it. We made it. Sorry, everybody. I just want to apologize. That was not the best performance of mine. Next time, I really do think little time needs to be devoted to rehearsal.
I don't know, man. Maybe a lot of those people are related, which is why they sound similar. No?
You know, I think if we really want to be avant-garde, it's going to be a one-man show. And he'll just change like a name tag on his shirt. Stan.
Change position.
Yeah.
Change position.
I'm getting a lot of flickers here. How do I sound?
Sound great.
Okay, great.
So before we go into this, do you want to discuss a little bit of the change of direction you had? Because it was very interesting and it certainly permeated this, permeated these pages in terms of going away from the montage.
So
why and what you did and why you did it?
Well, okay. Montages are interesting, right? At least my concept of a montage and the way I write them. Because when I write a montage, I've written many montages in different scripts, and I can usually just describe things and say, hey, this is happening. Maybe there's a little bit of dialogue, like, you know, a couple of snippets. But here, in order for me to develop, like the snake oil salesman, the fact that certain people are getting certain potions or certain things to drink, I really needed to have lengthy dialogue. I couldn't just have a guy handing out stuff to drink and then people will understand later, oh, it's because this guy drank this potion that he became a zombie. So without actually... So because of the necessity of the lengthy dialogue, I didn't think a montage worked. Like, before it was supposed to just be, you know, a heavily music-focused montage and us flying, the camera flying around the city or the town. Yeah, right. I didn't think that was going to work here. Now, there are elements of the montage still where, you know, because of the through line of action, we're still experiencing the town. So we have Long being transported to the jail, Stan leaving the jail, coming out, seeing, you know, interacting with Carl. And as he passes Carl, Petrov has already set up shop, so now we've moved to Petrov. And then from Petrov, with his interaction with Doc Murphy, we go back into his clinic.
Right.
And from there, his wife, Claudette, has to leave to go to the train station to do the telegram. But, because we keep following someone and it's a continuous thing,
Yeah.
we're still experiencing the town. I know I could have probably described what was going on a little more, but I didn't want it to get too wordy.
Yeah. So a few comments on that. I think it was a really good decision.
Okay.
Because when you first told me, in episode 1, we kind of talked about the layout of the overall structure of the movie. We got to this part and I was like, okay, it feels like it's almost taking me out of the movie a little bit. And now we're going back and we're going to have that From Dusk Till Dawn thing where it's really going to shift in terms of tone and everything like that.
Yeah.
Which concerned me a little bit, but I thought, well, let's see how you handle it. And I feel like the way you've done this, it's kind of accomplished two things. It's become more of an integrated experience. I'm really getting that full understanding of the movie, of the lay of the land and how people interact with it. It felt more lived in. And it felt more, secondly, it felt more fully realized. You know what I mean? So I love the idea that we're following this character here and then this character, the next one, this one, rather than what we kind of hit upon a little bit last week, maybe like the person on the train or something. I just felt like this felt naturalistic to some respect. You know what I mean? And I was very, very happy with the direction you took. Very good.
Yeah, I was happy as I was writing it. And the big concern I had was the exchange. I'm trying to give characters equal time, right?
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily equal time, but I'm trying to insert them back onto the screen where I think the audience wants to see them again.
Yeah.
And so my concern was I hadn't planned on Everett and Long interacting the way they did, because once again, this was all a montage, right? Maybe Long would wake up and he might have a quick interaction. Okay, all cards on the table here. My initial thought was that to trigger the montage, Long would have an interaction with Billy, Maggie's kid, the little kid, because the kid is like, wow, real life, gangster essentially. And Long would have this kind of like, it would be this dueling father figure kind of situation, where Long is like the evil father figure, and or maybe the cool dad, whatever you want to call it, as the the opposite of Everett. And so Billy was going to be like enamored with Long, and Long was going to get the harmonica from Billy, and then that would trigger the musical montage where we float around the town. So now that was gone, I didn't know what Everett and Long were going to say to each other. So one of the things that took me a lot of time writing this was, okay, so I want to establish that Long wasn't always just an outlaw, that he had a life before that. And so we're talking about, we're setting up the whole, hey, he used to work on the railroad. And now we understand why there is a Chinese guy in the Old West, right? But in order for me to give a little authority to myself as the writer, I had to look up, well, okay, what kind of, injustices did Chinese railroad workers endure? And I actually found a great article on the Stanford college site that actually covered Chinese railroad workers. And so everything that Long says in his exchange, at least according to this report, this article, essay, whatever it is, it supposedly all happened.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of got that from that speech. Like he's not just going to make this up without some substantiation.
Right.
There had to be something in there, because this was some very specific thing with the 2/3, and it felt like it was meaningful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So again, before I get into the kind of the notes, one of the note I wanted to say is that this writing, for whatever reason, felt kind of inspired. like I think you moved away from the novelization we talked about and kind of took all that into the script this time. And probably my favorite pages so far. And I think it's because naturally, as a reader, I'm starting to get more invested in the characters. And I feel like we're getting deeper into these characters and how they're interacting with each other. So whenever Stan and Everett were having their discussions, or whenever Long and Everett were having their discussions, I was like immediately pulled in. Like, when you're reading and you're kind of turning your page like this, and then you slow down and read a little bit more. I was just like turning those pages really quick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it was characters that I was pretty familiar with by page 20, whatever it is. Speaking a language that I understand them speaking, but kind of developing those little micro layers as they're talking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I could feel, and I don't know if it really came across in the performance. And by that, I mean that when I was reading Stan, for example, I read him as a lot more upset than the way you did, which
and it's meant to be that way. Just once again, without like refamiliarizing myself with the dialogue. Like when he says, whatever you say, Marshal, that was meant to be read sarcastically. It's supposed to be whatever you say, Marshal, right? Like a little bit of thumbing his nose to authority.
Exactly. I mean, that's how I read it. I read that there was a tension that it's just building and building and building on this. And I don't know, it really grabbed me. So I was really happy with these pages, man, as I kind of alluded to early on. So if you don't mind, we could just kind of dig in.
Let's do it.
So on page 29, let me just also say that I have kind of two larger notes on this, and then just a bunch of little ones. Okay. So I'll kind of alert you when those larger ones come into play, but most of them are just small things here. So one thing is on page 29, this is a previous dialogue where in the middle, Everett grabs Stan by the collar and he says, "No, that's not justice." Sorry, it's more of a Batman than Everett.
Exactly. That's fine.
Stan struggles for a moment, then relaxes. It's like this tension is really starting to build at this point. And I felt like just trying to keep that in mind, everything that happens afterwards is kind of like, his men had died, he got hurt. They're at each other's throats, literally. And these things just keep building and building and building kind of to a crescendo. So I kind of kept that in mind, and I'll tell you why as we get to it. On the bottom of page 30, the same thing, where Stan says, if it was up to me, he wouldn't survive. Well, it's not up to you. I felt like it was almost getting personal at that point. Like, don't question my authority, and, don't question me. You know what I mean? So again, more tension being built, and I'll kind of get back to that a little bit later. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. My notes really start on 31. Couple questions.
Yeah.
So with Claudette, are we going to be seeing a lot of her later?
So this is all kind of, I love this word, inchoate. I love saying that word only because when you read it, when you see the word, it looks weird. Like inchoate. How do you say this word? So inchoate.
I don't know that word.
Inchoate. So this is an incomplete idea.
It's Chipotle, not inchoate.
Anyway,
Chipotle, if you would like to sponsor us, listen, we're open. Okay,
absolutely.
I'm there at least twice a day.
There
Just
you go.
Saying.
At least.
Biggest
sometimes
fan.
Up to 5.
Could happen.
Okay, so what I would like to see, as we go through these different vignettes, we see Petrov, we see the jail, we see Doc Murphy's, we see the Undertaker. I want the audience to see how after the zombie outbreak, I want to revisit these scenes or these areas, and we see how they've been affected. So while Claudette won't have a big part, and maybe I need to write something here where, Doc Murphy is a little more loving, and they're a little more loving to each other. I do want, I'm toying with this idea that as the survivors are making their way through the town, and let's say they break into Doc Murphy's to like get some medical supplies or something, they'll see Doc Murphy, standing over the decapitated body of his wife or whatever, and he's got like, a bloody bone saw, and he's just staring, and he's almost like comatose because of what he's done to this woman that he loves. Right. Like, I think one of the things that draws me to zombie movies is that the inner turmoil that people feel or that characters feel when they have to kill a zombie, but it's a zombie that looks like someone that they love.
Right.
So it's either going to be something like that, or Claudette's going to be tied to a table and she's a zombie, and Doc Murphy can't bring himself to kill her. And this could also be an information scene where, as they're leaving, Doc explains to them, it's the bite or something, right? Don't get bitten, or it's the blood, like don't mix blood, don't let them bite you, don't exchange fluids with them, kind of thing.
Right.
That way they'll, the characters in the movie will have more information to create a plan and defenses. I always hate in horror movies when the characters, when they aren't given a chance to win. I don't care if they fail, right? But let's give them a fighting chance.
Yeah.
To overcome these insurmountable odds. Because that to me is satisfying.
Okay. All right. I was just
sorry
curious
I
about it.
rambled there,
Just-
Brian. I hope.
No, I mean, you're kind of working it out too.
Okay.
So that's okay. Both of those instances sound interesting, so I'm curious where we're going to go with them later. I'm also trying to figure out like where in the script we are, like what's going to happen next, but I don't think I really want to ask that question, because I kind of want to see as I read, for the first time, what the next 10 are going to be. I'm trying to figure out when the actual transition is going to take place, and I know we still have to go to Fort Bliss and all that, so I'm sure we're going to be there. I'm guessing we're going to be in the next few pages.
Yes.
Because it seemed like a natural break where Everett and Long leave off. But anyhow, okay. So little things here where Claudette says, "Darling, the soldiers are leaving." I felt a little abrupt when I read that, because I was like, "Wait, what soldiers? What's she talking about?" But then we see the soldiers in a second, and I think that seeing them is pretty obvious, because they're going to be in uniform. Yeah. So I think if we said something like, "Darling, your other patients are ready to leave or are leaving," it would probably set it up okay. Again, these are minor points I'm going to be making here. And knowing doctors the way I do, since I work with them quite a bit, I've never heard a doctor say, "I just can't understand." Symptoms I just can't understand. They would never admit to it, because there's a little bit of an ego with most doctors, no matter when they are or when they are or where they are.
Okay. Have you interacted with movie doctors in a movie?
Not recently.
Have you been a movie character, Brian?
No, I've been a movie voice. Have you? But maybe if you said something like, "These are symptoms I've never seen before," where it's a little bit less about him, but it's again, these are subtle things, man.
Okay.
No, not a lot to say here. The next little description here, for a moment, the old soldier flicks his gaze.
Yeah.
Love that part.
Oh yeah, I wrote that and I was like, "Oh, flicking a gaze. Oh man, that's I think really." Thing. Oh, go ahead.
The whole paragraph, though, was like,
"Oh yeah, no, totally." It's just, as I wrote that. Sorry, I'm gonna toot my own horn here, everybody, but just the direction. I think it's really clear to the cinematographer, like what we're gonna focus on, and just to have those eyes just suddenly, flick over. I think that's different from darting. I think darting is like moving a lot of places, whereas flick is just like one and then fixation.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, the balance that you have between the dialogue, and I'm not trying to, give you a bigger head, but the balance between the dialogue and the description is so spot on this time. I was like, I totally understood everything that was happening, and it was like really clear and concise, and I really enjoyed it this time. Okay, when soldier says, so this is a little bit more in response to what I just said. I can't understand is what the doctor says, right?
Yeah.
So the soldier, he may not say something then that's quite like this. It might have to subtly change as well. So, I'm sure the army doctors can do something. Much obliged. Could change to something like, hopefully the army doctors can help. Thanks for getting him back on his feet or something, So a little bit of credit to him, but we need to take him to the army doctor. Again,
Okay.
real subtle. Okay, so page 32. A little bit of a youth callback here. So when we get into the interior of the jail continuous, that paragraph after that, I felt like I was playing the game Zork again. Remember Zork?
Of course.
Yeah. The small building has only the basics: a desk, a table and chairs, a gun rack. I'm writing it down here. Okay, these are the things I'm going to need to use later.
I'm a child of the 80s. Come on. Text games. This is right. It aids me in my writing.
Well, I was thinking, are these things that are going to be used later? A desk, a table and chairs, a gun rack. It's like, that's how my brain is trained, to read this stuff. Inventory. You have
max verbosity. Go north.
That's right. And Stan drops long and ceremoniously. Again, it's the brevity this time, man. Spot on. Okay, so here we are building the tension again. There's no way to treat a prisoner, whatever you say, Marshal, just like, he's getting kicked at each other. So this is where my first note comes into play, and that is towards the bottom of 32. It says Stan sighs and begins to leave. Everett sits. I added in there, Stan sighs, shakes his head in disbelief and begins to leave. He's like, I cannot believe this guy. You know what I mean? And I think this is a great spot to really ratchet up the tension a little bit more here between these two, because I felt like it was going to go there. I felt like naturally they had built up enough that they're going to get in each other's faces even more than they did here. So where Stan says, I'm getting a drink, which I guess you changed to I'm going on patrol. It
should be. Basically, I know you're making a point here, Brian, but just to clarify this, this is at the point, I kept trying to find the spot where the montage was going to begin.
Right.
And I need to have Stan go to the 9 Lives so that we can introduce the girl there that he likes. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this makes sense. He's going to go get a drink. But then I thought, wait a second. Does that make sense? Like, it's middle of the afternoon, and we had this gunfight and dead bodies everywhere. Does it make sense that the sheriff, it's time to go and get liquored up? That doesn't make any sense. And so that's when a change in direction started happening. And this is just me being careless and not stepping back a couple lines to make sure everything flowed correctly.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of rewrote that as giving you even more outs than that, because I felt like he was so upset by this point, it didn't really matter what he said. So I actually had, where are you going? Anywhere but here. You know what I mean? And Perfect. He's like, you have a prisoner to watch, and then he says what he has to say. But
yeah,
I was like, I was mentioning like, these are my men. This is my town. This is my responsibility. That's your prisoner. And then Bill's, so it's really even hitting it on the head even more, like face to face. I can almost see them like, at this point, face to face, and no one's backing down. And then Stan just leaves. You know what I mean?
Sure. I like where your head's at. I think it's a little too soon to get them that ratcheted up.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Stan and Everett, they have history. I think Stan is disappointed and he's frustrated, but I don't know that he would get to this, like, hey, let me get in your face kind of thing. I think they're still friends who disagree. Now, later in the movie, there's going to be that, like, a breaking point.
Mm-hmm.
And, I want the audience to feel like these guys are still on the same side at this point.
Okay. Well, I guess my only counter to that would be that his men just died. He just got shot in the face, or, got injured to some extent. He's pretty upset, and then Everett's trying to tell him what to do. And he's like, you know what, even if it's just a tantrum at this point, he's ticked off. He's going to show that he's going to set the precedent that, no, this is, I've drawn the line right now. Maybe it's not like they're going to come to blows, but he's not backing down. I guess that'd be my counter to what you said. And I think that he's got legitimate cause to not. Because I think that in a lot of cases, whoever it is would have just destroyed Long on the street,
How about, instead of I have a town to patrol, how about, I've got I've got dead men, dead bodies, or something like that. I've got, just to bring it back to look, a lot of people, there was a heavy human toll here.
Yeah.
And it needs to be addressed. But basically something to that effect. Instead of saying I have a town to patrol, which is kind of weak. How about, I've got widows to comfort or something to that effect. I'll work it out.
Right. No, I know you will. I don't know what the answer is. I do like I like him taking ownership of it. So if there's any way he could do that and make it sound like this is my area of expertise. These are my people, my town, my men, my widows, whatever you want to say.
Yeah. Well, okay. So here's my resistance to this, Brian. I mean, I like the idea, the essence of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I just want it to be conveyed through the acting. I don't want it to be, expositional dialogue.
Right.
So, I mean, I can see the whole, instead of Stan saying I'm getting a drink, he can say, anywhere but here as a starter, as an opening salvo to this argument. I just don't want it to be, over the top, on the nose, talking about this is my town, these are my men. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. I know you need to set up the overall arc between the two of them.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. Sorry about that. If you can hear that.
I heard something. What was that?
Just hit the mic weird or something.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying.
Let's not get hung up on this. I mean, I'll work that out, smooth it over.
All right. Okay.
This is my script, Brian.
My script, my pages, your notes, note boy. All right. So in the middle of 33, where we have Carl saying in that really cool performance, by the way, killed my kin, burned them wagons, they killed Molly, Sheriff. Who's Molly? Do we know Molly?
No, we're going to assume, the audience can assume that Molly, because she's a named dead person, that she's the little girl that Claudette sees. But who cares?
I guess the only thing is when I saw that, I'm like, wait, how did Maggie how did Maggie die? Right? I went back and looked. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I mean, I
you want me to give her a more distinct name, Rachel?
Yeah, or Sarah or something. I was just thinking something very, very. Do we?
Sarah's with Jimmy on the train.
Yeah. All right,
Okay.
well, cool.
How about Sarah without an H? There you go. They killed Sarah without an H.
First she loses her H, then she loses her life. I don't know, Sheriff.
These Indians are out of control, taking everything.
We gotta have some law out there, Sheriff.
Yeah, exactly. You like that?
All right, so at the bottom of 33, that's really minor. You can read. There are some additional notes you can read. They're tiny.
Oh,
tiny,
give me
tiny.
it. Give me. We got to stretch out the show, Brian.
We really don't, man.
Stretch
All right,
it out.
It was just at the end of 33 when we have Petrov reaches for a lavender bottle and spots a homely woman.
Yeah.
I just wrote standing near Doc Murphy just to place him there in the scene, even though we're gonna hear him in a minute. I wanted him like standing there next to him so we can kind of understand that he's still in this crowd.
That Doc Murphy's still in the crowd?
Yeah.
Did I not introduce that Doc Murphy is out there watching this?
You did, but I wanted to put him there to kind of get him right in the middle of the action, since he's the one who's kind of standing up for this guy and saying, "Don't give him that man a penny." I just had him standing next to the old man.
All right.
I told you it was minor.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It just I got lost in thought for a second because I can hear the old man voice that I want. I just can't do it, and it's killing me, man. It's killing me.
It's time to let it go, buddy.
Well, I just feel like here's the thing. To be honest, I was really looking forward to performing these pages because I thought the dialogue was really good. I thought the descriptions were on point, and for me to just like butcher a lot of it, especially with like breaking character and all of that, It's really disappointing because I was really looking forward to doing tonight's episode.
Let's start over, dude. It's
Yeah,
fine.
let's do it.
We're actually pretty early.
Dude, what are you talking about? We are not going to start over.
Edit it. Edit it all over. Just do your lines again.
Hire like professional voiceover artists.
Right.
That'd be badass.
All right. So when Petrov is talking, this is in the middle of 34, and
34, here we are.
He's giving his little speech.
Yeah.
I felt like this is a guy who's done this town to town. This is his big close. You know what I mean? And damn it, sorry. And he's, he says the same thing over and over. So I had something a little bit more schlocky to put there. Feel free to say absolutely not.
Okay.
So where it says, let me ease your pain. If you have the coin, then I have the cure. I changed that too. So schlocky.
Tell me, Brian, tell me.
If you have the purse, then I have the cures.
Wow. That is no good. First, then I have the cures.
It's the best I could do.
I know
Trying to rhyme
they
'em.
look the same.
No, I'm trying.
Purse,
Listen,
cures. Wait, cures. Okay, they don't quite look the same. I was thinking purse and curse.
They don't look the same. They don't quite sound the same. But you put some Russian accent under there. Hey, might sound close enough.
All right.
If you have the purse,
I'll consider it, Brian.
I have the cures. See, that's how it was in my head.
He has the curse. Why would I want his potions? I don't want to be cursed.
Okay. At the bottom of 34 and the top of 35, this is probably the only dialogue I didn't really care for too much.
Okay.
Where Doc Murphy is kind of responding to what he just saw. And I'm not sure what's going to happen to Petrov. You might have said something in the past, but maybe this is an area where he can foreshadow a little bit. Like that man's going to pay dearly for his misdeeds or something. Where it'd be a little bit more than it's a crime what he's doing.
It's a throwaway line.
I know, but that's why I said if it could be something like he does end up paying for it.
Well, okay, wait, but let's pause for a moment. I hear what you're saying, and absolutely, I can add a little more value to this line, but this line is supposed to be valueless. It's just to give them something to say while they're being ushered back into this room. I could just fill this with description, where Doc Murphy's muttering to himself angrily about Petrov.
Yeah, and it felt kind of like that. I mean, when I wrote for Claudette was that she's feeling like a plot device at this point, just to kind of move on. Hey, no, there's another person here for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I felt like it could have been just a little more substantial. Maybe she says something like, it looks like you have more pressing issues right now. We see the prospectors, or maybe she says the whole thing, like maybe it's not an interaction between Doc and her. Maybe it's just her saying that man's going to go to hell or something for what he's done or for what he's doing. Don't give it no mind, honey, whatever. Don't pay it no mind, honey. I don't know, but it just felt like,
Okay. How about this? Doc can say, that man's making a mockery of my sacred profession.
There you go.
And what can Claudette say?
She can still say,
I know, dear.
I know, dear, but looks like you have more pressing issues right now or something,
Okay,
to kind of.
you don't want her to say patient. You have patience. The only patience I know. Oh, wait, that doesn't make sense. Never mind. Damn it. So here's a 30-second story. I love this. So Mad TV in the early 90s, mid 90s, I think, or maybe late 90s. We'll say late 90s.
Why do I think Steven Seagal is coming out?
Huh? What? Steven Seagal.
Go ahead.
Anyway, season 1, this might even be episode 1, and I thought Mad TV was awesome. I thought, like, this is the answer to SNL, which is no longer funny.
Yeah.
And Mad TV, I feel like you had these really talented young comedians who were just pouring who were just unleashing all of their creativity. And it was like raw and fresh and all of that. Anyway, they did this like spoof movie where it was like set in the South, and they were, you know, going to fight off like George Wallace. I think that's his name. And it was like an action version of the civil rights battle. And I don't know who they had a guy playing Steven Seagal playing another historical figure. Anyway, one of the lines, one of the exchanges is something about like having patience. Like you gotta have patience. And the Steven Seagal character says, "The only patients I know are the ones I put in the hospital." And I always say that line because I think that's so clever.
Did I not mention you're going to go to Steven Seagal?
Well, I know. I just thought you thought it was a different skit I was referencing.
Yeah, the one I really like, the ultra widescreen one. Of course. All right. Anyhow, I think those couple lines need a little polishing. That's my bottom line on this one. All right. So this brings me to my second larger point, my larger note. So I love now that all the characters are getting integrated into the story. Now that we're seeing the prospectors, I thought it might be interesting if you feel like it will fit in the story and the flow of it and the timeline within the actual movie, because I'm not 100% sure when all this is taking place with relation to each other, but it seems like it's all fairly linear. Like there's not a lot of time passing between like scenes. So thinking about how to integrate these guys and what's going on with them a little bit earlier. So maybe the prospect number 2 was already bitten when he went to the bar, and he went there to, you know, just like drink his way through it or something, not even worry about it. But he's got a small wound, you know, while he's at the bar, and now it's grown in size and intensity. So just a way to kind of introduce that idea a little bit earlier, so it's not all kind of happening one after another, and that would feel a little bit more integrated into the story.
Okay, that can work. It gives a little more. I was going to say it gives a little more value to that scene, like a little more economy. Meaning the earlier scene, like they can say a little more.
Right. It'll be more meaningful.
I'll have to think about that, only because I don't want to overwhelm the audience with too many details.
Right. Yeah, he doesn't even have to talk about the dog bite. He could just have it there, you know, and they could reference it like, you know, damn bite or something like that. You know, I don't know what. Yeah, what's that?
That's talking about it though, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like 1 or 2 lines is all I'm saying, you know, and he glances at the wound. So it's taking up, you know, a little snippet of real estate on the page. It's not going to take the viewer totally off message at all. They may question what that is, but you kind of move past it, but it will pay off here a little bit and show that there's a little nugget that was laid in the previous scene, which I like. I like when they kind of, you know, move along, because I'm sure we're going to see prospectors here again pretty soon, and what happens as a result of the bite or as a result of this contagion.
Yeah. Let me think about that.
Okay.
And as I'm looking at this exchange, I feel like this is the thing I was trying to avoid, which is, you know, telling, not showing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So maybe he's, you know, gingerly at the bar, he's kind of rubbing this wound that's on his forearm or something.
No, that's fine. What I'm saying is this exchange right here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, let me just reference this. Page 35, where they're talking about the wound and how it happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as I was writing it, I was envisioning the scene, and I realize now that I'm not showing it to the audience. You know, and if you were watching this, it's just a guy talking about a dog that kind of, you know, died strangely.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe this needs to do like a little flashback and, you know, voiceover.
It might be a lot to take in, because the flow of this kind of new montage, it'll be broken. And I think that the nice thing about it is that we're flowing from idea to idea here.
No, exactly. I was trying to preserve that, but as I'm seeing this, you know, it just seems like it's a lot of dialogue. You know, it's like 2 pages of dialogue for something that is really minor. Like, we just need to know that he got bit by a dog. The dog was kind of weird. How about we just say that? You know, weird looking dog.
Okay. So we lose broke its back with the stick and all that fun
like
stuff.
I'm trying to intimate here that the dog is somehow like undead or something, right?
Totally. Yeah. Because it couldn't move its legs no more, but it kept looking at us, growling.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Well, I know. That's why, you know, I thought that's a cool thing to see.
Yeah.
I don't know if we need to like talk about it here for
Do
2
you
pages.
want to see it though?
Huh?
Do you want to see it at this point? I mean, I also like the fact that we're not seeing it. You're hearing about it. You know, it kind of builds that weird tension at that point. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't like seeing everything.
Okay.
Until I need to. I don't know. I honestly felt like all this was really cool.
All right. Well, let's leave it in for now.
Yeah, I felt like it was additive to the story.
That's fine. And I can add some description in the beginning. You know, he's got bandage around, you know, an ad hoc bandage around his arm. And it's kind of like blood is bleeding through. And maybe the other prospector one can be like, you got to have that looked at or whatever. Right.
Or maybe it's just a treat for second viewers. You know what I mean? He's just got this bloody thing there and they're sitting there drinking.
There you go.
Know what I mean?
Sure.
Could be that way too.
I mean, yeah, he tries to pick up the glass with the bit arm. He's like, and then he picks it up with the other arm.
Yeah. Something.
Yeah.
All
that
right,
weird dog bit you.
Damn undead dogs.
Exactly. Hope it doesn't lead to an outbreak of some kind. By the way, we're prospectors. We're down on our luck.
I dislike meteors. Is one of them coming too?
So, okay, never mind.
Okay. I'm going through the rest of my notes here. So walk me through a little bit of the logic of the transfusion. I totally understand why he sends Claudette off.
Yeah.
I thought that was clever. You know, because now we're gonna see the train and see what happens over there, which is sweet.
Right.
So this is a possible transfusion for the prospector, in case he comes back, right? Is that what that was for?
Well, I mean, okay, so I wanted it to, once again, we're trying to have a little bit of authority to this movie. What would a doctor during this time do? Like, he's worried about rabies, and at this point, there was no cure for rabies.
Yeah.
Like, if you got bit, you died essentially.
Okay.
I looked it up. The cure for rabies didn't happen until 1885 or around there, and the cure was discovered in Italy. So, what would a doctor pre-discovery do? He would probably do a blood transfusion.
Yeah.
So why he doesn't have the equipment already? Plot device, right?
Yeah, I didn't bump on it at all.
So, but is it even necessary? Because I wasn't really thinking they were going to do a transfusion, but this might be another source I can use for why more people get infected. Like maybe, you know, for whatever reason, he has to transfuse some of the blood out of this guy, and that jar of blood, I don't know, like gets knocked over, or some kids steal it, or whatever. They're playing with blood. I don't know. I don't know.
Kids do.
It's just a source for the outbreak, right?
I honestly, I didn't even care if it paid off. I just love the fact that now we're following this character here, this one here, and now
Okay.
we're
Well, then
Claudette. I was like, this is really neat. You know, it's really kind of a cool thing. You know, I feel like it's, you know, they're just handing the football off, you know, and you're watching this guy carry it, and you're getting introduced to the town. You're seeing all the stuff that's going on, and this in lieu of a montage was really cool.
Fantastic. Well, then I'm not going to pay it off then. I just needed an excuse. Like, why does he tell Claudette to, you know, do a telegram, which I think would probably happen at the train station. Makes sense.
Sure.
You know, I didn't want him to just say, Claudette, I need you to send a telegram for, you know. And she'd nod knowingly back. I know.
Mm-hmm.
I know, darling.
Okay, so at the bottom of 36 and top of 37, just really nice. Again, really nice descriptions of those, of Long waking up and
Dude, I loved
Everett's face.
this sequence. You
Yeah.
know, like it's dark, it's sunset, right? And there's no like electrical light in the
Right.
Old West. I wanted there to be moonlight, but I was like, it might be too much. But I just like the whole, the pipe being lit and
Right.
lights up Everett. He's sitting in the darkness. He's been watching Long this whole time.
The whole time, yeah.
Dude, I was like, ooh, that gives me
what
kind
I'm
of
saying.
like chills.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, this is awesome. This is the big lead into, their first confrontation. I know you said you didn't really plan it here, but I was like, it felt so natural.
Yeah.
And the lead in was so good. I was like, that's cool. And this whole conversation between the two of them, it's almost like two monologues, the way they're kind of
Totally.
because they've got such distinct points of view. I really enjoyed it as well. My only note on this is that Long basically just said, kill me, kill me, kill me. And that's his last memory. His brother just got shot. He's like at the end of his rope at this point, and now he's coming in and he's referencing it. And then he's getting into all this other stuff with, the historical reasons as to persecution and whatnot. I feel like we need to ratchet up a little bit more of the brother and the impact of, what Everett and Everett's men just stole from him, which gives a nice opportunity for Everett to not really spill the beans, but to, somehow say, yeah, we all lose things or something like that. But this is one of those areas where I would say that I would add a little bit about that, but not take anything else away, because I think that you've earned the right here, because these are this is my favorite interaction so far in the movie, because I really get these two now. And especially knowing what I know later is going to happen, I really love their dynamic, and they're very solid, these two guys, and so I think spending an extra half page with them is totally warranted and would not be overwhelming to anyone. I think it would fit right into the context of the movie. So I would just add a bit more about, at the top of it, about what he did what his men did to his brother, and he's still suffering to some extent. I don't have an answer, but other than that, but I do think that's important.
So I don't know where I would insert that. And I do think, as I wrote this, I thought, okay, he's lost his brother, and it would probably make sense for him to bring him up specifically and ask, where's my brother's body or something like that, right? That should be his main concern. Mm-hmm. But then I thought, okay, where does the dialogue go from there? That doesn't take a lot to get back to this track, right?
Right.
I wasn't sure, and so I just kind of left it out. I was considering having Long ask the Marshal, promise me you'll send his bones back to China. That's our tradition, or something to that effect, right? Which was also part of that Stanford report. Mm-hmm. That because you had all of these Chinese railroad workers dying, what they used to do is bury them quickly along the railroad as they worked, and then they would come back for them and send all of these boxes of bones essentially back to China, where they could be buried in their homeland. And I thought, okay, maybe I could work that in. That kind of makes sense here, but I don't know that Long would think the Marshal would be willing to go through those lengths, or to those lengths, to help this guy that, he hates, essentially.
Right.
So I thought, okay, well, maybe that's unrealistic. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is here. And I'm wondering if I can just rely on the audience to say, yeah, you know what? Through the performance, they see, that Long is kind of mourning. He doesn't necessarily have to get into this whole thing about the brother, be pointed about it. But I don't know.
It just felt like something was missing. I don't know if it's necessarily what you said. I don't know if that would really solve it in terms of, the body of my brother, or if it's just his raw emotion. He seems angry. He seems like he's coiled when he's saying these things. Like he's just got so much pent up aggression when he's talking about the law and all that. And so it felt like if it was going to be anything emotional about the brother, it'd probably be before that whole interaction takes place, and it leads to, this is about the law. But I do feel there has to be something, I mean, I get it. I get it logically that, it's not like he was unarmed.
How about this? How about this?
Out. Yeah.
Here we go. Everett says here, and the law says you need to pay for what you've done. Long can say, and what about my brother? What did he have to pay for? Or something. He can go on with like, he never killed anyone. This is all bad dialogue at this point, but I'm just trying to get to the points here. Touching back on the whole exchange in the bar, that I don't want you killing anybody, don't want you shooting. We can just have a little exchange here about, how he went to great lengths to keep his brother from having to murder anybody, that it was all for show.
Yeah, I mean, but logically he was running out with a rifle.
Yeah.
So he's fair game at that point. That's why I think it has to be almost like just emotion. Like, screw the law, screw, your rules. Killed my brother. You know what I mean? It's like, you killed my brother. It's a visceral experience. This man that he's so close with, that.
Okay. I mean, I hear you, but I think the natural reaction would be for Everett to say, you killed my family, or whatever. And then the whole thing is just like, everything we're trying to reveal later, it's all coming out here.
I think that he can hint, we all lose things, or, it's your loss is no different than anyone else's. Just like being cold with him, no matter how emotional Long is, no matter how much, he is experiencing the loss, because that part of Everett is kind of dead. Right. So he's kind of like, it's not going to affect him. You can cry all you want, you can get as upset with me as you want. I don't know, man. I don't know what the answer is on this one, but I feel like it needs something there, some gravitas for his pain. That's not just based on the historical pain that he talks about. Everything here makes sense, but it's like in addition to what he's feeling personally.
Well, at this point, I don't know. I don't know how to work that in without rewriting all of this.
I can give more thought if you want to. I think there's a way. But I definitely think it's at the beginning. I don't have an answer for you yet.
All right. Well, you've made that note, right?
Okay.
No, did you?
Oh, yeah.
You wrote that down?
Of course.
Okay. So that's something to consider.
Yeah. Most of my other notes are just like, I love the interaction. It was pointed and poignant between these two. I also like the parallel images of Everett and Stan that are staring at each other in the mirror, and then Everett and Long staring at each other directly. I don't know, I thought that was really cool. I don't know if you meant that or not, but that was it was a nice little touch.
No, not necessarily. I just liked having, some visual reference for the reader to kind of give them a mental image of the camera angle that I was going for. And I like cutting, in the doctor's office, I like that we don't know where everyone is yet. We're kind of discombobulated. It's like we immediately start with the doctor stitching Everett's wound. We don't know that Stan is in the room, but then he comes into frame standing up by the mirror, fixing his eyes, and how do we go from there to get Everett in that shot? Oh, have him in the mirror. I don't know. I'm really big on cinematography.
Yeah.
And I think that having good cinematography and good camera angles and knowing what keep in the frame can really make or break a movie. It can really make a movie look like it has a budget, or make it look like, it's a crappy B movie on a studio lot.
And of course, when I read it, it's, with the eye of interpretation a lot of times. And I felt it was like, this is an Everett type of, I don't know what you call it, character trait or something, where he's very intense, and he's upsetting the guy on his side, and he's upsetting the guy who's on the other side, and it doesn't matter because it's Everett, is so single-minded and so focused on, on the law and bringing this man to justice. So he doesn't really care who gets in his way. He's going to stare him down. I just felt like it was a good continuity of character. Maybe it was on purpose or not, but I felt like it was there. Don't look away from me. Don't you look away from me, Everett. Stare at me.
Sorry, man. It's like I'm hearing these noises in my apartment. I'm like, something on fire? What is it? What's going on? Anyway.
Look at me. Look at me when I'm talking
exactly.
to you.
Who are
Batman
you?
and Everett. I'm Everett.
So my one concern was that Everett was a little flat in that he's so single-mindedly focused on the law. But then I thought, that I think fits his character, like, as a person who has lost his family, probably questions everything about life, questions God, questions morality. I think maybe we don't explicitly say this, but, he clung on to the law as the one thing that made sense in life. And so that's why he's so, he always goes back to the law when he doesn't have an answer to these kind of moralistic questions.
Yeah. Yeah, but we have that nice interaction between Billy and Maggie and him, and I think it's enough. I think it's enough to set that there's more to him, but when it comes to anything that is legal, he's going to be a law man first.
Yeah.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was very consistent in a good way.
Okay.
Really, that's all I have in terms of notes, man. It wasn't a lot for me to write. Because I think for the most part, this was a great pages.
I could have kept writing because I can already see what the next few pages are going to be. But, it was already late on Thursday. So I was like, let me get this sent over.
Right. That's good.
Do you want to know what's going to happen?
I really don't. Unless you're working something out, I'd rather just learn it as I read.
No, not really. Well, let me just say that I'm kind of changing the, because the montage has more or less disappeared.
Right.
I'm thinking that the outbreak, it isn't going to be the sudden thing. It's sudden in a sense, meaning that these people are becoming afflicted from their disparate sources.
Mm-hmm.
And, some attacks maybe have happened, some people get bit, but the authority will be aware of it as it happens. And so they're going to corral these people, and they're going to be like, oh man, I don't know what's happening. Like, why are these people getting sick? Why are they acting this way? And they're going to corral them into like an abandoned house or something like that. And that's where Sam will find the distraction. That's what he's going to use. He's going to realize, if I unleash these crazy people, this will be the distraction to break Long out. So that's where I'm headed at this point.
Okay. I think that'll work. Was there a meteor in the first version of this?
There will be a meteor. So
there will still be.
Yeah, because we are now moving. I'm setting up some of the sources, and we're moving into more of the sources. So Petrov is. I'm just going to tell you what's going to happen, Brian.
He hasn't spilled anything.
Huh?
He hasn't spilled anything to the water source.
He's going to.
Yeah, but I'm saying that hasn't happened yet.
Right. So that's going to happen.
Yeah.
We're going to see people drawing water from where he spilled the stuff. Like, as he gets killed by the Indians, cart spills into the stream. We follow the stream as it goes underground, and we cut to a woman pumping out water from the little, I don't even know what you call it, the spigot, right, into a bucket. And she brings that water to her family as they're having dinner. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
But with a logical viewer think that, well, wait a second, we've got a guy who's in the army. He's already been infected before any of this happened, before any meteor or anything else happened, right? He's being taken off to the fort. We have the rabid dog who
Right.
gets the prospector.
Yeah.
So I mean, does it really matter?
The media?
I'm asking first off if they're going to notice that and in trying to think about where it actually took place, or the question to you is, does it really matter, or is it kind of your point to obfuscate anyhow? So you're going to keep explaining the different things that happen because who knows what the reason is behind the actual outbreak.
Well, to answer your first question, does it matter? No, not really. I just like to have as many different sources as possible.
Yeah.
Within reason. I don't know. What's the second question? It's already left my brain.
Who knows, man? I say it and it's gone.
So, it's just to add a little more complexity to the story. The soldier getting sick. I guess I could have kind of established that a little more, where have some throwaway line about what got him sick.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's the thing. It doesn't really matter. We just know he's sick.
Yeah.
Now, I like having the prospectors get the meteor thing because, we can bring back Old Man Prophet.
Let me pause for just a second, because anyone who's going to go see this movie knows that they're going to be zombies. It's like, that's not going to be a surprise to them. You know what I mean? So just the fact that they're going to see that reaction that he gives, with his gums and that little, that's plenty. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to give a reason as to why. You just know something's coming.
Oh, yeah.
As a viewer. So
Totally. Well, I don't know, man. I know that we live in a day and age where all trailers spoil the entire movie because studios are so afraid that audiences are going to leave bad reviews because I didn't know what to expect. I thought it was going to be something else.
Right.
But if I had my druthers, I would totally hide the fact that this was a zombie movie. That it was just going to be a straight Western.
It would never happen.
Well, I would love that. I think that would be so awesome.
It would never happen. You're going to definitely get scenes from Act 1 and 2 in the trailer. Absolutely. Never 3 probably, but definitely 1 and 2. Sorry, buddy.
I don't know what to tell you. I think there's room for surprises. Like, if we can get the budget for this movie down low enough, then I think it would be worth the bet. Like, if we could say, I don't know if you saw the movie, the Catfish movie. I think it's called Catfish. I didn't see it either, but part of the marketing was don't let people tell you what it's about, or something like that, right? I want the kind of the same thing here. And the reason I think this way is that did you see the movie Starship Troopers?
Yeah.
So the trailers for that, they kind of tried to segment the trailers for different audiences, and one of them had they mentioned a love that could never be, or something like that, right? And I'm like, a love that could never be? Where did that happen? And they had different shots of, people kissing or whatever. I'm like, who is this trailer for? That's not what this movie is.
Right.
So I want to lie to paying customers, Brian.
That's fair. This is all about the soldier, and my point stands that I don't think anything else is necessary at that point. I think you've captured it all fine.
Okay, no, well, that's fine. But getting back to the whole meteor thing.
Yeah.
I think having the meteor strike is, it's another way to get Old Man Prophet a little more defined, because, as we follow the prospectors back to their stake, and we see that the guy who got bitten by the dog, is acting a little more aggressive and a little, incoherent.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's getting upset with the first prospector. We can have Old Man Prophet at his stake kind of mocking them as he sees them just dumping rubble out of their little cave,
I feel like you're telling me an awful lot for someone who didn't want to know what the next things that were coming are.
Well, I don't care what you want, Brian. This is part of the creative process. I got to talk it out. You freaking guy. You put those back on. You listen to me.
You have no control over me.
Okay, Brian, is there anything else you wanted to discuss?
No, man, that's it.
Great.
Easy, quick, ish.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah,
It's about
it's
we
us.
stretched it out enough. Padding. That's what it's all about.
That's right.
All right. So, everyone watching, well, you know what? Let me just fix my freaking website here.
Let me hit record.
Yeah, exactly. Boom. I had a little announcement on my browser that was popping up, Brian. That's what I had to cover.
Nice.
Okay. Everyone watching. So, our website is letswritethismovie.com. This is where I post weekly pages for this movie we're discussing. And when you click one of our blog posts here, as I'm doing right now, you can see the new pages that I write. And I'm hoping that you will read them and have some feedback that you can share by leaving a comment here on our form below, or if you or when you watch these episodes on YouTube, leave a comment there. And we will be happy to discuss your feedback on our next discussion episode, which we have every weekend.
Yes.
Let me get us back to side by side. There you are, Brian, in all your glory.
Hey, whatever's left.
And that's it for this week. We will see you in the next episode.
See ya.
You're not going to make a face, are you, Brian? Hold it. Hold it. It's not even breathing. Look at this guy. It's like a statue. Okay, we are rolling. Rolling.
Come
What?
on. No one knows you'll be liking this script right here.
The chocolate starfish. And something else he says, right? Doesn't he say something else?
Yeah. Actually, it's the chocolate covered starfish. I can't remember now.
Isn't chocolate starfish a reference to something?
Yes, it is, Renee.
Yes, it is, Brian.
I believe it is. I think it's something out of Willy Wonka or something.
Oh,
I'm
right,
not
yeah.
Totally sure, yeah.